Thank you very much, Ganeshan, President Wickremesinghe, Excellencies, colleagues, friends. Thanks for the opportunity to be here at this event and to share some thoughts. I've been asked to speak on the issue of what is the Indo-Pacific and how do we secure the Indian Ocean. And I'm going to frame my remarks in three ways. Firstly, just to provide some overall context, then to talk a little about Australia's interests in the Indian Ocean, and then to seek to answer the question, how do we secure the Indian Ocean? In terms of overall context, Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong has said that we live in the most challenging strategic circumstances of the post-war period, and that comment definitely reflects the situation in the Indo-Pacific more broadly, as well as in the Indian Ocean. We're seeing strategic competition increasing. Domains that were previously considered separate are converging: economic, diplomatic, strategic and military. The global economy is facing fragility and volatility, and as the President said, we face the spectre of climate change. At the same time, the Indian Ocean region is growing in economic and strategic importance, and from Australia's point of view, we consider that this trend will only strengthen in the years ahead. In fact, from the 2030s on, we think that the states of the Indian Ocean littoral, which extends from East Africa through South Asia to Indonesia, will become the new drivers of global growth. And this inevitability is in part demographic, in view of South Asia's growing and primarily young population, which will provide a demographic dividend to the region. And of course, India is leading the way as the world's fastest growing large economy and trending to be the world's most populous country in the next few years, even if it isn't already. In terms of Australia's interests in the Indian Ocean, we are committed to playing a leading role in managing the opportunities and challenges in the region over the coming decades. And Australia has a self-evident interest in the Indian Ocean. We have one of the region's longest Indian Ocean coastlines, we have the region's largest exclusive economic zone, and we have the region's largest search and rescue zone. So these are all very significant interests that we have. So we feel that our geography makes us a steward of the Indian Ocean along with other Indian Ocean partners. We also have an interest in ensuring that the shipping lanes that cross the Indian Ocean, on which we and the rest of the world rely on, stay free, secure and unimpeded. In fact, those shipping lanes account for over 1/3 of the world's bulk cargo traffic and 2/3 of the world's oil shipments. So we want to work from Australia's perspective with our Indian Ocean neighbours to shape a region that is peaceful and predictable, where countries can cooperate, trade and thrive, where internationally agreed rules and norms prevail, and where no country needs to feel like it is a hostage to circumstance. The Indian Ocean region is different to some others, such as Southeast Asia, where ASEAN centrality is very firmly entrenched and established, and it's reaffirmed by ASEAN's external partners. In the Indian Ocean, the regional architecture is less mature. But we think it is notable that in 2023, the IORA Council of Ministers reached agreement on an IORA outlook on the Indo-Pacific. And this marked the first time that the countries of the region expressed a common view of an Indo-Pacific built on a rules-based order with respect for key international rules like freedom of navigation and overflight. So we feel that the IORA outlook on the Indo-Pacific is an example of the role that IORA can play in shaping the region's norms and strengthening regional architecture. It provides a framework for collaboration across a number of action areas, such as maritime safety and security, trade and investment facilitation, fisheries management, disaster risk management, tourism and cultural exchange, blue economy, etc. I'm now going to turn to the issue of how can we secure the Indian Ocean. In Australia's view, there are a number of principles on which peace and stability in our region are founded. One is deterrence, ensuring the costs of aggression outweigh any perceived benefits. Reassurance, that countries will not act coercively or forcibly to alter the status quo or to undermine regional stability. Communication, so reliable and open channels at all levels to minimise risks of misunderstanding and miscalculation. Transparency, which means measures to build confidence and reduce risk, and then rules, adherence to agreed rules, norms and international laws. So security is not just about having the strongest military, although of course having an effective and an efficient military certainly does help. But there are several other vectors for a more secure regional environment, and one of those is actually at the domestic level. So a country which has its own house in order is more secure and contributes more to a more secure region. This means having secure borders, national resilience against transnational threats, foreign investment screening that protects and safeguards sovereignty, mechanisms to protect against cyber threats. So there are a range of domestic actions at the legislative, regulatory and administrative level that help to build up a country's own security structures and also in that way contribute to regional security. It might be obvious, but a stable and growing economy is a huge source of security, including where that economic stability and growth relies on interdependence with other markets, and so there is mutual support. Diversity in exports and markets without over-reliance on one or a small number of markets also enhances economic security. So strong and stable economies are less vulnerable to coercion and better able to make independent decisions. Another security vector is at the regional level, and I'm going to talk about trade again. So preferential trade arrangements, plurilateral or bilateral, don't only improve market access and promote growth, they bind countries closer together, and there is a security aspect to free trade agreements which goes beyond the economic benefits. The President mentioned Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, and from Australia's perspective, we definitely support Sri Lanka's bid, accession bid to RCEP, not just for the market access gains and the potential economic growth that would open up, but also it would bind Sri Lanka more closely to important markets in Southeast Asia, in East Asia, as well as Australia and New Zealand. It might seem, again, like an obvious point, but good relationships with other countries, in particular with your neighbours, are important to regional security. It doesn't mean that neighbours have to agree on everything, but having the mechanisms in place at government-to-government level to ensure strong and open communication when disagreements may arise, or at other times, is a really important safeguard. And that government-to-government interaction can be helpfully supported by Track 1.5 or Track 2 dialogues, as well as business exchange. Strategic partnerships, whether they be bilateral or plurilateral again, signal mutual interest and support among their members. They're not just pieces of paper, but they signal intent and shared interest and can provide a platform for action as well. They can take the form of formal partnerships with commitments set out in a document, or less formal arrangements where countries come together to exchange information about the strategic challenges they face. I haven't talked too much about the military engagement, but obviously military-to-military engagement is vital as well. So things like joint exercising, training and capability building, information exchange, policy exchange at the defence level all build habits of trust and cooperation that make for a more secure regional environment. So I'm going to conclude by coming back to IORA. And I think, or Australia thinks, that in the Indian Ocean region we should double down on IORA and work to turn it into a regional mechanism that provides and enhances peace and security. I think that the comparison with some other regional institutions, such as ASEAN, is probably not fair or realistic because of the long-term institutional stability of ASEAN. But we can definitely pursue a more ambitious agenda for IORA, to use IORA to create an environment that enables economic cooperation and that guards against strategic conflict, that is a platform for preventive diplomacy, and could even be used to de-escalate major power competition. A platform for dialogue and open channels of communication that build confidence and minimise risks of misunderstanding and miscalculation. So we think that IORA can be a building block of regional stability as a venue for open diplomatic communication at all levels. So that's leader level, could be foreign and defence minister level, among military commanders, and then among key ministries, foreign and defence ministries. And we could start that process by picking off some pieces of the IORA outlook on the Indo-Pacific to implement. We wouldn't need to do everything at once, and in fact that probably is not realistic, but picking off some bite-sized pieces to implement in stages that would operationalise IORA's strategic intent would be a useful ambition for IORA as an institution, as well as the countries of the Indian Ocean region to implement. I'm going to leave my comments there, but I look forward to the rest of our engagement, including from colleagues online. Thank you.